Welcome back, everybody. We're here today in the Dr. BeeWell studio. It's an extra special treat for everyone, like always. Today, the gentleman that we have on the show, this gentleman is a Marine. He has served in active combat. He is a voracious self-improver. He has now created the space for others to follow suit. He's a small business owner. He's a dad. He's a husband. He's the owner of On Target Fitness. This guy has been crushing it for over 10 years, and for even longer than that if we're looking at his time in the service. My guest today, Alec Lieberman.
Thank you for having me.
You got it, brother. How's everything going?
Awesome, man. Awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you on the show today.
Yeah, great to be here.
Heck yeah. I was living in Portsmouth for a long time, and I would drive by your shop and I would see, On Target Fitness, and I'd say, okay, there's a fitness place. You got all these, and that was one of the first, and I don't know if it was one of the first, but in my opinion, from my perspective, there was one of the first micro gyms that was, and maybe that's the wrong word, but not the big box gyms that you would traditionally see, catering to a different clientele or smaller groups, or it was the first one that I had really saw and paid attention to in Portsmouth. Mm-hmm. And so I'd always drive by it, and every time I'd see it, I was like, okay, this guy's my buddy back home in Massachusetts was starting a gym as well. So I was understanding that it's not an easy business. Yeah. So I was, super fired up about that, to see that it was always there. Every time I get off the highway, going to the circle, I would see it, So I'm like, okay, giddy up, and then to see that you made it through COVID and to see that I know that you must be running a successful operation there, and I'm excited today to learn about it.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about it. It's been a wild ride. It's funny. Anytime I talk about what would the next endeavor be, I always say boring compared to the first one. It's got to be a lot more boring.
more boring, maybe a little bit more structure.
Yeah. I can't almost ruin my life again.
Right. A couple times probably, right?
Yeah, it's just so knockdown, drag out. But the gym is an absolute dream, so it was well worth it. But the COVID sob stories are only one of several sob stories with getting that thing up and running and successful and helping people the way I wanted it to. So it's I couldn't be more proud of the gym. I couldn't be more proud of the team and more proud of the clients that are there. But it's been a journey getting it there, and it's been fun.
Yeah, bro, and I love that because Jacob and I we're in here grinding away, and I couldn't be more proud of us. I couldn't be more proud of what we're putting out there. Producing shows, still crushing it. Going to be coming up on a year working together pretty soon in a couple of months, and so we're
cool.
Hell yeah, and we just keep getting. Thank you, brother, and we just keep getting better and better, and but it hasn't been perfect. It's been a crazy journey. It's been absolutely wild. But just to see the growth, I know exactly what you're talking about. Likely on a little bit of a smaller scale because it's the time frame is not as long. But it's an amazing feeling, and it's funny because most people, that everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, right? Everyone wants to have own their own business, and they don't realize how many. And I encourage everybody to do it. The only way is through, but you need to constantly constantly find confidence in yourself, constantly learn new things. Be a voracious self-improver. Learn to wear 100 different hats. So it's a challenge. It's a journey.
For sure. And I think for me, the trajectory was, at the time that I opened the gym about 7 years ago, at that point I had a pretty decent idea of how to be a good personal trainer. So I knew how to structure programs. I knew how to bring people through them. I knew how to correct exercises and cue and all that good stuff. I knew the X's and O's of training, but I knew, come to find out, basically nothing about actually being a business owner, so very little about running a staff, because it's funny, civilian small business leadership is very different from Marine Corps leadership, even though there are plenty of, leadership principles that certainly translate, but culturally it's very different. It's also, the arrangement is different. Any employee is a volunteer for you, versus in the Marine Corps, it's volunteer service, but you're assigned to your duty station. It's a little bit less of a choice. Yeah, you're kind of there, and you're kind of stuck with the team that you have, and you almost, to a certain extent, you can't choose your team. For the most part, you kind of can't. Whereas, on the business side, not only can you, but you absolutely have to, because you can't work with everybody. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with them either. It's just you have to build the team around people you can successfully work with. And So, I had a big learning curve with that, big learning curve with, literally like every function of a business that wasn't the actual conducting of the services that comprise the main offering. Like everything else I had to learn the hard way.
The hard way, right? Steve, 4 years ago, this dude was couldn't even tell you the first thing about accounting.
Yeah.
I think I could become a CPA now, I think that, because I just had to learn, and obviously I have my accountants now, but like at first I had to figure this stuff out so I could have these educated conversations with them. And when you're running your own business, you need to know this stuff.
Business cash flow management, it might be the hardest thing that I had to learn. And it's so funny because I feel like personal finance I've always excelled at. But personal finance, when you kind of make a budget, and then when you need to cut back, there's always a meal out you can skip or whatever. Like you can always sort of find some money with personal finance as long as you're not, buying way more car than you can afford, or way more house, or, renting way more apartment than you can, as long as you don't have those big rocks out of place. With personal finance, you can always find ways to kind of cut back when you need to. Whereas with business, it's like, well, how do I cut back? By cut back, that's like someone's job. Like that's pay, payroll is my biggest expense right now. So It's like, I can't just flip a switch and cut back. That's somebody that I hired, that I promised that this would be a good opportunity.
Yeah, right.
So it's like, I can't cut back the rent. This is how we make the money.
Yeah.
So you have all these expenses that are fixed that to a certain degree you kind of can't cut back. You really need to grow into, if your money's not right, but then growth also costs money.
So that's the thing I was just going to say, right? And personal and with personal life, growth does cost money to some extent, but not really.
Yeah, not quite the same way.
Yeah, not even close. I would say, like with business, you really need a capital and an influx to make things grow.
For sure.
At scale, and that's definitely what we're learning right now.
Yeah.
Which has been cool because it's like when you see it in real time, you say, okay, well, if I can denote these resources, and put them here and put them, then things actually work. Things are going how we want, and that means the business model is working. Yeah. Obviously, like it was for you. So, now, not everybody wants to start a gym. I know not many. I think you told me only 18% of this country even has ever had a gym membership.
Yeah, and that stat could be out of date and don't recall where it came from. I remember reading.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
Business book a while ago that it's something like 82% of the country has never even joined a gym once.
Right, and that's pretty wild. And so, like, what made you kind of decide? Tell me, just bring me in the background a little bit. What made you get into the Marine Corps? What made you go towards fitness? Where did these, this idea, it obviously didn't start, you didn't just wake up and say, I want to start a gym. Your life obviously, created this path, created this journey where you found this as a passion and decided it was going to be what you wanted to do.
Yeah, it's funny, when we were chatting on the phone yesterday, my decision to join the Marine Corps was very unexpected by, anybody that knew me at the time. And, it's a little difficult to explain because the Marines tend to attract a bit of a psycho edge. I'd like to say it's, curtailed in healthy ways, but, I was like a skinny band geek in high school. I was in high school when 9/11 happened, so I definitely remember that and remember seeing oh man, this is definitely the turning of a page, in our country and in our society. My grandfather was, a Jew that got smuggled out of Vichy, France by my grandmother. So just in sort of the family stories, I was very aware of the ethos of probably not the best idea to sit on the sidelines if you feel like, evil per se is in front of you. So, I already had that kind of, I guess, that ethos from family. And then, 9/11 definitely was a motivator for me. I was like, okay, this might be the fight of my time. And then there's a piece of wanting to join the Marine Corps, I think, for a lot of guys that it's like, I just want to kill people that have it coming. There's that have it coming. I'm not a psychopath. I'm not a murderer. But you do just want it. The Marines are a little more aggressive in their mindset. And I just, for whatever reason, I was really attracted to that. I just knew that this institution would bring out, things in me that being the, shy, skinny band geek in high school that, my experiences up to that point were not bringing out of me. So, and that was really my first intro into fitness because obviously I needed to get physically ready for that. I did ROTC, I had a scholarship at UMaine, so I had 3 years of training while I was in college, and then I graduated a year early and commissioned. So I had all this prep, and the physical demands, of the service in general are pretty strong. And, at the time, this is 2007, 2008. At the time, they were, even more stringent. If you wanted to be an officer, for good reason, if you're going to be a leader, you should not be the, slowest runner in the pack and things like that.
Right.
So, it was a massive leap forward for me getting ready, because not only was I physically ready, to do that job essentially, but, confidence, boom, through the roof, like lots of other things. Like the fitness became such a door opener to other things. I mean, it literally gave me a job, and actually like a great job of being an officer in the Marine Corps right when the financial crisis and housing meltdown was happening. So like I graduated in spring of 2009. So it was right when everybody was like, oh my God, like I just graduated college and I can't find a job. And I actually had a job, and I had a job I really loved. I loved being in the Marine Corps. So it was, that fitness that enabled that door to open was a massive opportunity.
Yeah, I really love that when you said that fitness was a door opener, and I definitely want to speak on it. But first I want to talk. So when you were the band geek, when you were that person, did you have the feelings of you wanted to kill bad people?
I think probably not when I was like, younger, high school, but like as I got older and, you could see the war in Afghanistan and the war in Iraq progressing, I just sort of had this feeling. I was like, I think that I want to get in on this, like I think that I feel strongly about, like, I never went to Iraq. I went to Afghanistan both times, but like particularly Afghanistan, despite, it's falling apart with our exit a couple of years ago, certainly at the time you could argue like, hey, we got attacked from there. And then regardless of, politics and foreign policy decisions and all of that, the Taliban are demonstrably like bad guys.
Yeah.
That, it's like, if you're going to get into a fight, they're probably a good person to get into a fight with.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if you're a person, like you said, regardless of the politics, like you said, of the foreign policy and like why these decisions were being made. Because like we could look and talk about that all day. That could be a separate show, I think. And maybe, if you'd like to come back, that'd be a very interesting conversation, who knows. But but it's seeing what's happening now, with the Taliban. Like, I know we're not supposed to judge other people, and we're not supposed to do this. And this is how, like, I'm the guy who's telling people to be well. I'm living my life this way, and I'm fully transparent and honest about my feelings. And I see it now, and I see these women getting their rights stripped from them daily.
Yeah,
it's getting worse and worse and worse. And it's like, was it our right to interject and do that? I don't know, but I know that these are bad motherfuckers. And like, if what you're talking about, that primal need, like for me, it's not always necessarily like to think about like people attacking America, but for me, it's like people who treat other people badly. So it's like regardless if they were Afghanistan, Iraqi, if they're if they're Ukrainian, if they're Russian, if they're French, if they're American, it doesn't matter. Like if they're treating other people badly, which those human beings are doing, I do have this like sometimes this primal feelings that I want to end these people's lives. And like I don't always feel good about it, because I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't feel this way, and I don't want to feel this way, but I do feel like, hey, this is a bad person. I would like to drink their blood, like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's you do want to like, maintain that humanity of that person on the other side of the conflict, let's say. But yeah, I mean, they're such a horrible, violent drug cartel. That's really, what they are. And, the reprisals that they do to anybody that gets in their way are, horrifying. And then, the way they treat women is horrifying. So, even with the outcome of that war being what it is, I know, like, I'm sure, I certainly can't speak for all veterans or most of them or whatever, but there's a cadre that I would say can at least take satisfaction in like, hey, for about 20 years, little girls got to go to school. So there's now a generation of little girls that learned how to read and, maybe learn how to think is ideally what you get, coming out of school. And, maybe that will make a difference. One certainly hopes.
Yeah. You want to know what? I bet that it will, no matter what. Not that I don't bet that I will. I actually know that it's already making a difference, because it's made a difference in those women's rights and in those lives. And I guarantee you that those women right now, even though they're being told that they can't meet and you better believe that they're figuring out a way to get together and to organize and to figure out a way through this. Because that's what human beings do. And, us being there maybe gave them that ability to give themselves the time so that they could learn how to think and learn how to, not that they weren't thinking beforehand, but it's just when your lives are completely controlled by other human beings, it's an impossibility. Yeah, so I just thank you so much for that service, man, and for making those cool decisions. Making those brave decisions, like and like not many people, I decided I was going to go to pharmacy school in 2008 when I graduated high school because I saw the recession. My brother was a pharmacist, and it was a good way to make money.
Yeah.
But that was like real, and because I wanted to help people. I really wanted to help people. That's what I wanted to help people be well. Like that was really what I felt like I had an ability to communicate, an ability to help people, and I was always able to do that. So I wanted to go towards that. But I found out pretty quickly that that's not what and pharmacy does help some. Some pharmacy is great. It can be great. There's just a lot of negative with it, and with a lot of drug pushing and just getting people on medicine, a quick fix, opposed to profiteering, off of people's bodies, and it's just it's pretty gross. But it's not the pharmacist who I graduated with who are mostly perpetuating this. It's mostly a system that's been created, and so it's just great that I just had a son, and I definitely will make sure that I guide him in a way to help him understand, like, hey, you have all these options and you have all these choices to make in front of you, and just start thinking about it. And you don't need to make it when you're 18. Maybe you make it when you're 20, maybe make it when you're 22. But this is what I did, and this is what other people did, and talk to them and figure it out. And it's cool that you found this path. And you figured out you were this band geek. I think of this kid, and he wasn't a band geek, but it was this kid that I played football with, and he was he always, his effort was like 1,000. His effort was always on 1,000, but his body, he was skinny, and he couldn't, he could never really, quite get there. Come senior year, he starts to just really, really hit the gym and get after it more, and like his body probably started to develop. He decided at that point, like, I'm going to be a Marine, and it's like I think that his story is probably pretty similar to yours, in that he just wanted to be, and he found fitness as this way through. This kid became, like jacked up, jacked up, and then he served in the Marines. He's now a state cop.
Awesome.
So it's a cool story to see what you're talking about, the confidence that you get from fitness.
Yeah.
And you saw that, you felt that because it was such a door opener for you.
Yeah, it was huge. And then the other thing that happened when I was in college is, took a part-time job as a personal trainer. So that was when I first got into personal training. And my clients at that time were like a little different than my current clients mostly. So it was a mix. It was, some college kids, usually female, they were kind of trying to lose their freshman 15. So that's very different than my current clientele. And then I also did have another subset of clients at the time that are similar to my current clientele, and that, mid-40s full-time working parents, like, 40s or 50s full-time working parents looking to like lose weight, get in shape, just feel better, and get healthier. And I really got addicted to training that second kind of client. The first were fun too, and I'm still friends with like a lot of those former clients after years and years. But, freshman 15 is one goal, but like, hey, I want to set a good example for my kid is a totally different goal that's so much more powerful, that even if you are a college kid and don't understand what it's like to have kids yet, it's still like when you see that they want to do that, you're like, oh man, this person's motivated. Let's do this.
Yeah.
I just really enjoyed it. And then, went in the Marine Corps.
Good for you. Back then, that's like, people talk always now about like the side hustle and all this, about getting a job. Like, talk about an entrepreneurial spirit, man. Like, you were in college in 2008. No one was talking about this shit in 2008. A college kid doing personal training on his own. Like, that's a giddy up.
Yeah, it was, it was at the beginning of things. I mean, it was funny. Like, I kind of heard about and started doing CrossFit, like when it was very, very early, just because it kind of started in military circles. So I remember hearing about it, in like 2006. Or whatever, when there was probably like 2 CrossFit gyms in the whole country.
Yeah.
So it's funny when people tell me about like new stuff like CrossFit now, I'm like, yeah.
I know.
But I just got addicted to training that kind of client and like having that kind of impact on somebody's life. And so, I definitely internalized that and remembered that. So when it came time to, I thoroughly enjoyed my time in the Marine Corps, but I knew that I was going to be a short timer. I knew I wasn't going to make a career out of it at some point. I thought about it hard actually, because it was, it was an option, which I was lucky to be in that position. But, I wanted to get out and get back into fitness and, just get into the business of changing people's lives for the better. It's funny. I don't know if I've sat down and like written down like a personal mission statement or something like that. But if I did, it would probably say something like leave people better than I found them. And fitness, I really realized is an extremely powerful lever. That's probably the best tool I have to accomplish that is, first fitness, and now, kind of business or fitness business, because it's fun, now that I have a team at the gym and we're starting to chat about multiple locations, I'm getting like pulled a little further and a little further from the actual training floor, which is a little bit bittersweet, but also, I have 3 full-time coaches that are absolutely amazing. In some ways they're better coaches than I ever was. And collectively, the 4 of us are training more people than I could ever train on my own. So the impact is, 4X probably what it could be if I was still doing it on my own, which I did for a long time. That's kind of the journey I'm on of just, let's just keep impacting people positively, and let's see if we can't change the fitness industry for the better while we're at it.
Yeah, man. I think it's really, really amazing that the type of the type of clientele that you're focusing on. We talked about it. Talked about it yesterday. But this is the 82% of people who are available. You open up a gym and people talk about how it's so competitive, and you said, Steve, it's not competitive at all. There's 82% of people out there who need a gym membership, and that's who I'm never trying to steal anyone from another gym. I'm trying to impact somebody's life, somebody who hasn't had a gym membership before, who's maybe tried it on their own and failed, or maybe someone who's had it before for a little bit, but it wasn't sustainable because they didn't know, they didn't know what I know or what my coaches know. And you bring them into your community, and that's like, to have that impact, dude, on the 82%. I think that, and like you said, we're not positive about the numbers, but the majority, because it is the majority. I'm positive about that.
Certainly.
It's a resounding majority. I think that that's awesome that that you like impacting those people, and that you found people on your team who like impacting, that type of clientele, because that type of clientele can be harder to deal with, I'm sure, sometimes. I bet they all have different unique challenges. But that, there's a lot of heartbreak in that, because you want to see people get well, you want to see people get it, and it's not always the easiest thing with fitness. Like, for me, I was, I stand in front of you today. I'm 175, 180 pounds. But for a while, and I was I played sports, growing up, and then I decided I wasn't going to be an athlete in college. I had a couple of opportunities to play football in college, but I said I'm going to become a pharmacist. And so when the workload was kind of like, there was one school that was going to let me do it, the University of Buffalo, and they were going to let me do pharmacy and football, but I didn't, I thought that the workload would have been too much.
That's a tall order.
It's a tall order. So there was like a class schedule had to be, different and stuff. So like, whatever, I made my choice. And, but I ended up not, getting pretty unhealthy and gaining a lot of weight. And then I lost all that weight one time. And, during college, like my second year of college, I started to care about fitness a little bit more, but not like in a necessarily sustainable way. And cause I was just doing it on my own. And college, I get sick, some mental health issues, addictions, all this stuff. And I get to the point where I'm like, 270 pounds. Yeah. And so this is 2018, I think 2019.
So you're down, if I heard that correctly, you're down like 100 pounds from your high?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, man. So like, 100 pounds, about 100 pounds from the high. And so I didn't necessarily want to lose weight. Like I was in a pretty decent place. Like I was getting in such a better place mentally than I had been in, because I found my, this young lady who's now my wife. We started dating, and so like everything was great, and things were starting to improve in my life, and so, but I just wanted to like get healthier. I wanted to get healthier, and I kind of like what it was. I started dancing, and I would go to dance, and then I realized like I would get all like feel like I was gonna vomit, and then sometimes I would vomit, but I wanted to dance so bad, and I don't drink alcohol or anything, so I knew that had like nothing to do with it. I realized it was just anxiety, and like one day I was dancing, I learned that the breath work, I started breathing, and I go home, I tell my partner, I say, hey, this great thing happened today. I was finally able to overcome that feeling. And she says, yeah, dummy, it's called yoga. I've been trying to get you to come for 5 years. So the next day we went to Steph Polini's shop over at Three Bridges, and I started doing all types of, breath work and Kundalini yoga and all this yoga. And that brought me to hot yoga. And then I just like loved it so much that I just went towards it. And like, I finally had structure. I finally had a program that I was following. And like along the way, I learned too, like, a year and a half, into yoga, 2 years into yoga, I realized like, wow, I have this need that no one told me to do this, or I've just been, watching other people and the way my body felt. Like I need to start lifting weights again a little bit. I need to start doing some strength training. And I was lucky enough where my yoga studio, at that point, I had been going over to Blaze over, in Portsmouth, and another shop you probably know well. And so I was doing some, some lightweight work stuff over there, and it kind of was like really showing me like, damn, you got to start doing some more strength training. So it's just the consistency of like getting a program and, going through that, and like how much better I feel every day just because I am, 100 pounds less than I was, and I'm able to make better decisions with food. And I know that, it's just it's an amazing thing what fitness can do for you.
It is. It's huge. And like, I remember one of the things we were talking about on the phone yesterday, like part of the reason that I got into fitness, because wellness is a little bit of everything, and sometimes that's why it's overwhelming for people to get into a positive trajectory, because it is overwhelming. There's like so many things you need to do, like even just nutrition, which is only part of it, is so complex, and there's so much conflicting information. Like a big part of what we do for our clients is just trying to make it a lot more simple. But it's so overwhelming that the reason that I, saw fit to, be a personal trainer and have fitness be like the starting point of, the foundation, if you will, of building a nice wellness house or whatever metaphor you want to use. But the reason that I think fitness is so important is it makes everything easier. It's just magically easier to eat better when you're moving your body. And it's this fundamental need that gets neglected more and more now, as more and more conveniences exist. And, some of them are nice. I get it. Heated seats in your car are nice or whatever. But, if you get the fitness thing right, it's easier to get a bunch of other things to click into place. Whereas if you try to start with some of those other things, it's not necessarily as easy. Like it's hard to just snap your fingers and sleep better. But if you get the fitness thing right and you get your body moving, you probably are going to sleep better. And then any active efforts that you make to further improve your sleep will probably take a better effect because you're moving your body. So I think, you start with fitness, it makes it easier to eat better, sleep better, stay hydrated, keep your head in a good space. And, it makes mental health, conscientious mental health efforts, more likely to take. It's easier to cut back on alcohol when you're working out. And most of us, if you drink regularly, you probably need to cut back at least once per year. You should take a month off at least once per year, I think, if you drink at all. So it's this keystone habit. You get this thing right, and a lot of other stuff can start to fall into place.
Yeah, when you said that, it's so funny because it's like the story that I just told. It literally was, I needed to figure out the fitness. I had all this stuff that was kind of getting better. I was starting to get better mental health. All this other stuff was really starting. But once I locked in the fitness, everything else cascaded after that. Like I locked in the fitness and I was still eating like shit, but then you lock in the fitness and you feel so good from the fitness. You don't want to, from doing whatever workout you're doing, you don't want to feel bad. So you realize like, oh man, maybe I should skip that, that chocolate bar today. Like maybe I don't need this candy after 8 p.m. tonight. And like you 100%, the sleep starts to get better. You just, everything in your life starts to improve. Your skin starts to look better. You start to become better looking, like literally from the vanity standpoint to like your innermost, need, everything improves and it gets locked in once you start to lock in the fitness. And I think like getting people just on that trajectory is such an important thing. And it's amazing that you're doing that for people and providing that for them. Like I said, I don't think everyone knows that, right? Like because we jump towards different things, and fitness is kind of the hard one. It's not hard if you just give it a month. You give it 2 months, you're going to get into it and you're going to love it. But those first couple of weeks, man, our nervous systems are so ingrained to do what we were doing and to stay in the same trajectory that it's so hard to make those changes sometimes. So that we want to, it's easier for someone to tell us to take melatonin to help us sleep. Something that's actually going to negatively affect us in the long term. Mm-hmm. Or, someone to tell us like, oh, hey, take, you're feeling a little, jittery. I mean, you're feeling a little, you have fatigue or whatever like that, okay, we'll get you on some Adderall. We'll get you on some, it's like, holy, this is an epidemic in our country. You talk about a pandemic epidemic. That is a real one. The overprescribing of medications, specifically, ADHD medication. And
that one, I just heard a stat that it's like there's over 100 million Adderall prescriptions in the country, which is just crazy to think about because that's like a third of the country. I think the country's 330 million people, and so there's like 112 million Adderall prescriptions, and it's like there's no way that that isn't surrounded by tons of abuse.
this thing that makes you feel really good when you take it, and happens to also be very similar to cocaine. And used identically to cocaine a lot of times. Like, it's just that's the next big shoe to drop, I feel like, once people realize what's going on with that.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head. I have a close friend who's been on the show, Jake Nichols, and we've both been through the opiate epidemic, and we talked about that, and it's like, you and I were talking about that before the show, and it's the epidemic, the opiate epidemic it's funny because people think that we're getting the perception is that we're getting ahead of it, and that we're like actually making it better, but like it's actually not true, because we've had more overdose deaths because of the fentanyl. We are curtailing the Oxycontin and the oxycodone and the pill part of it, but the skyrocket in fentanyl and the problem with fentanyl in this country has led to so many more overdose deaths. But we're at least talking about it more and starting to combat it. You talk to anybody about the Adderall epidemic or the methamphetamine epidemic, and no one's like, what? But 100 million prescriptions, and probably a fourth of those are in children, maybe more, because it's generally that's who is the first people who get these drugs.
It's actually 41.2 million prescriptions.
Or the stat I heard is wrong. 41.2.
It's still in that.
Yeah, it's literally, yeah.
Okay.
Regardless,
still probably.
You were dead on with the 19% for gym membership.
Sweet.
It's
Okay.
between 18 and 20, it fluctuates, but yes.
My guy.
We're dead on.
giddy up, Jacob. Thank you, brother.
At least 1 out of 2. I like them odds.
Yeah, I like the odds, and so, but no, it's just still 41 million.
Yeah.
So 41 million prescriptions of Adderall. That's and that's not, never mind the the illegal abuse that's going on, the sharing of all these pills. Because I'll tell you what, in college I never had a prescription for Adderall once, but I don't think I ever studied for a test without it. And I mean I did, but I'm just saying it was so rampant in our school. Like, everybody, you could see people walking around me, this small little library, and like, you just see people walking around just giving each other pills all the time to like, to study. And it's like, what a weird culture,
Yeah, well, I think the other reason we're just continuing to see the the overdose deaths is, okay, cool, we're maybe pretending to curtail, OxyContin specifically, but not curtailing these other substances. But I think the other factor, going back to like overall health and wellness, is I think the preconditions for abuse of anything are continuing to go up. Because you talk about the standard American diet, the abbreviation is SAD, which is fitting, because it's just basically a bunch of garbage that is slowly killing you and makes you feel terrible, and while it slowly kills you, is the standard American diet. It's way too much processed food, way too much sugar, way too much sodium, way too much preservatives, and all sorts of other weird chemicals that get mixed in there, and way too little actual real food. That's a standard American diet. But I also think there's a standard American mindset that is also pretty toxic. If you're always on social media consuming basically some mix of the worst things that are happening on earth, arguments, and people that are living a life much more lavishly than you. That's like the mix of social media. Like, that's clearly this toxic soup that is not going to leave your head in a good place at all. Combine that with, regularly watching the news, where you're dutifully being told what you're supposed to be really upset about and what you can argue with your friends and family about. And your head's just not going to be in a good place. And if all that collective stress, physical and mental stress, and then you get introduced to something that feels good and is addictive, and, of course you're going to hit that button again and again, and of course it's going to become a problem.
Yeah, that's that's at least what it was like for me. It's like you're in this, you're in this place, you're in this world, and you're just go. You're expected to go, and you're not, you don't take any time for community. You don't take any time for real long form conversations. I said the other day, I might have even said it to you, but I said the other day that some of the only times that I can have an authentic conversation with people is when I drag them in here and tell them to put their fucking phone away.
Yeah.
And they can't, they're focused on it and they're into it. And it's an amazing thing, because afterwards, every single one of the guests that I've had on, whether this is the first time that Alec and I have met today, in person. And I know for a fact that after this, we will remain in touch and we will become friends. And because we've had this unbelievable conversation where we're both being 100% present, and like that not existing for the world, and then the bad actors of the world taking, our nervous systems and manipulating them with all the stuff that you just mentioned, the bad news, the social media, the desire to have this lavish life. It's all bullshit. Like, we all know that we're happiest like when we're not happiest when we're out spending a ton of money. Yeah, sure, it's nice to get on a nice boat and to be on the water. And so try to make that happen for yourself somehow. There's plenty of ways to do that, and to do that within a community. And not everyone does have, the same opportunities as Americans or as a white American male. So I do understand that too. But let's talk about that too, and let's fight so that we can get some more of that equality and people can have access to one thing that I'm curious about, we're talking about it here, and is there, you're a busy guy who's running and I can't say it because I have a lot of these ideas, and there's a lot of things that are in the pipeline for us to do. But how can we affect the kids, and the people who are coming up? You own a gym, I own a great wellness brand. What can we do to change this even more so than provide it for, you're providing it to help their parents? And what's your youngest client, would you say?
I probably have one or two kicking around that are in their early 20s. That's usually a rarity for me. Usually, probably my average client age is 50.
Yep. That's what I assume. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah. That's so. But we get the occasional kid of a client, or just young athlete that, for whatever reason, can't find another place to train that wants to work with us.
Yep. And now, is there a way that we can, do you feel called at all to with your knowledge and with your incredible leadership skills and with your place in the community do you think that we're doing enough to just provide this for the parents, or do you think we need to also try to take that next step and try to do something for the kids? Or that's what I think is the way through, right? These kids are going to come up and eventually they're going to displace us, and they're going to realize that the world that needs to be better and needs to continuously be better, and it's a tough place. It's tougher for them than it was for me. There's different challenges for sure. I went through my shit. You went through your shit. We had challenges, that we went through 9/11, all this. But I didn't get my first cell phone until I was in 8th grade. And that, so it's, these kids are being exposed to this in 4th grade, 3rd grade, I can't even.
Yeah, that's a whole aspect that, my wife and I are talking about this endlessly, with our daughter, Ada, who's, 3.5 months, or getting a jump on it. But I didn't have my first cell phone until I think my senior year in college, and it was a basic senior year in high school, and it was a basic flip phone that didn't do anything besides call and text.
Yep.
And then I didn't have my first
50 texts a month. 250 texts a month is when it was 50 texts a month, 50 sent, 50 received.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah, limited.
Limited sent 50.
Yeah, and then I don't think I had my first smartphone until 2012. So whatever that would have put me at mid 20s, right?
Yep.
Before I had a smartphone, and honestly, for quite a few years after I even had the smartphone, I only used it for call and text because that was all my tiny brain could comprehend using it for. So it was smartphone, but dumb user. So
yeah,
so I didn't get inundated by all this sort of brain hijacking stuff until definitely my brain was fully formed. And then I got bullied in middle school and high school, but it at least ended as soon as school was out. You know what I mean? So I could go home and and take a breather from whatever might be going on at school or socially. Whereas the kids now, it's it's 24/7. But I
didn't even think of that.
Yeah, I to answer your question about what am I doing about it, or what do I think I could do about it, is I definitely thinking very keenly of what example am I setting to my clients, to my staff, to my wife, to my daughter, with every single one of the choices that I make. One of the very hard lessons learned, it's sort of a lesson learned and relearned is, you start a fitness business, and ironically, that's the worst thing that you can do for your health. Because you're getting up at, the first year I opened the gym, I was, the only employee. So I was coaching every single session, and I lived an hour away. So I was leaving home at 3:30 in the morning to get the gym opened up, getting home at 8:30 at night. So mathematically, I can't even get enough sleep. And that's assuming I fall asleep the instant I go to bed, the instant I get home, which I didn't, so I'm running on poor sleep, which means I'm skipping my own workouts, because the other sad irony of having your own gym that you built is it's almost like the conundrum with in-home workout equipment, where when it's there and you can use it all the time, you can also not use it all the time because you can always procrastinate.
Yeah.
It's why my clients, everything's by appointment. It's not just because it makes it easier for us to manage the schedule and it makes logistics easier, but it's also
there is some strength in having some structure and some limitations. And if the session at the gym is a precious thing that, you know, if you skip it, you're not going to get like a chance later today, odds are like probably the sessions are full, we're approaching capacity. So like, you know, we really strictly limit our capacity so that we can maintain the quality of the experience for everybody. So if it's a little bit precious and a little bit scarce and there's a little bit of structure to it, odds are you're gonna show up and you're gonna do it. So I've had to learn over the years, I need to be my best client, and there better not be anything that I tell a client to do or lecture a client about that I don't do in some way. Like I don't have to be perfect because no human does, but like I better do the things that that I ask my clients to do and discipline, you know, my day in that way and discipline my workouts in that way. And we were talking yesterday, I haven't written my own workouts for years because I believe strongly that if you want to get the fitness thing right, vitally important to have a coach that can guide you every step of the way, a coach that can structure your workouts. You know, everything we do is custom written, so it needs to make sense for you and your goals and where you're at. I believe it's vitally important to have that guidance. If I said that and then just wrote my own workouts, which would inevitably be half-assed, and did my own half-assed, you know, workouts at half-assed effort, there's something missing there. And
might just be uninformed too. Might not be just half-assed. Might be uninformed because having that guidance from somebody else. You know your own body, and that's a good thing to have perspective on. But having someone else give you that perspective is an incredible thing.
Exactly. And you know, I've just over the years I've really carefully cultivated a lot of my routines and a lot of my decisions and a lot of like what my example is, and that's worked incredibly well to make me, you know, a lot happier at the same time that, you know, I have a better home life at the same time that I have a better work life. So it's just kind of making everything better. But to me, that also bleeds over powerfully into, you know, I don't know exactly how to talk to a 19-year-old about what their phone is doing to their brain. But if I can set a better example, and then their parents are setting a better example, and then they just see collectively more and more people setting a better example, you know, with phone usage, with fitness, with nutrition, with, you know, all the decisions that we make to be and to live well, then I think that is probably the best impact I can have. Like, I don't know that I'll ever train, you know, youth athletes or anything like that. I don't know that, not my specialty, not my background. And I don't know that the guy that was like a really good jazz piano player can really sell his prowess in athletic training, you know, to kids that want to be good at sports or whatever.
The jazz pianist.
Yeah. Third place main state jazz festival 2003. Don't treat me any different though. You know, like I put my pants on one leg at a time. So
that's a giddy up though. I love that, baby. Third place main state festival, jazz pianist. Don't sleep on him.
My best friend that like for whatever our 10 or 15 year high school reunion that I was going to show up with like a Letterman jacket that said that, even though said jacket never existed. I would have had to have get custom made.
Yeah, I did. You didn't do it though.
No, I didn't do it. It would have been so funny.
I have my my 15-year high school reunion coming up this November, and I'm gonna make an appearance. I'm gonna do it. I'm so excited about it.
Nice.
You know, it's gonna be cool to see where everyone's at, you know, catch up with everybody, and it's gonna be awesome. I can't wait for it.
Yeah, but it's funny going back to your question, Steve, about like what do we do about that? Another concept that I've found helpful recently with this. The idea of like, how do we deal with phones and how do we deal with just the various things that are now in our lifestyle? In some therapy environments, they talk about like capital T traumas and lowercase t traumas, you know, the capital T stuff being like the, you know, the worst of the worst of you know, abuse, you know, physical abuse and stuff like that. And the lowercase t trauma being the things that feel more benign, like your dad losing his temper on you when you're a kid or something like that, but that do add up to trauma responses in adulthood. So like, I felt that's like a really elegant way to differentiate between the two things so that you're not minimizing the capital T stuff, you know, by talking about the lowercase t stuff, but then also you are talking about those lowercase t traumas because, again, they do add up. I feel like the same concept is helpful with lifestyle if we're talking about like addiction. There's capital A addiction, and then there's lowercase a addiction. And I feel like, you know, phones, junk food, you know, Hulu, Netflix, like just all of those things that are kind of there and they're normalized, but most of the time, if you really examine like the pattern of behavior that leads you to engage in it and the pattern of behavior that, or, you know, and how you feel afterwards, it's like, it is this lowercase addiction where it's this thing you kind of don't want to do. Like most people would rather read more. They wish they would read more, but they don't, most of them, you know, they don't. And it's usually because you do have to do something less if you're going to do something else.
Yeah, you got to do something less.
And I feel like framing it a little bit like lowercase a addiction is a way to think about it, where it's like, look, it's this thing that's not really good for you that you're kind of trying to quit, and that's kind of pulling you in the opposite direction that you're trying to go. And you have to address that it sort of has a hook or two in you, that you have to deal with.
Yeah, I can relate with that 100%. I think that's a great way to explain it to people, because you have these, lowercase addictions, and I think that those can even be stuff like physical addictions that aren't necessarily as bad as the ones that are going to take you out, like, oxycodone or heroin or fentanyl. Maybe like cigarettes. That's like it's a bigger case addiction, I guess, 'cause it's going to take you out. But like, I agree, man. Like, making, looking at it that way, I think is effective. And I just want to touch on the thing about, when I was asking you, the effect on kids and how you're gonna do it, like, you gave me an answer that I would have given to somebody, because it's like I was seeing where we're gonna go, and it was 100% spot on with, I'm gonna be me, and I'm gonna be me to the best of my ability. Because when we do that, we create this example for other people to be able to do that for themselves as well. And like, you have like a really cool job where you've created a really cool job, and you've cultivated a really cool space, and you're now co-creating that space with people that you've brought onto your team, that you've, like you said, that you've carefully selected, and that have carefully selected you to cultivate this space where this can occur. And I think that's a really, really fascinating thing. And like, that's what we're doing here as well, just in a different way. And so like, being you is the way through, and doing it unapologetically, and making sure that it's it's every now and again looking back to make sure that you're taking inventory on it, and making sure that you're positively impacting your community, or the people that you're intending to positively impacting, like your case, your clients, the community that you live in, your wife, your daughter. And that's a giddy up, man. You had a daughter a couple of months ago, and must have a little bit of effect on the fitness.
Oh, big time. And it's been really fun going through just the like initial stages of this, because like, if you have a 3.5-month-old daughter, you're like a rookie at being a parent. So I'm not about to shell out any parenting advice, because I'm not there yet. But what's been really fun is like, so most of my fitness career, I've worked with full-time working parents, and just pragmatically help them navigate the challenges of that. And it's a little different, obviously for men and women, because the women are actually having the child, and that has its, like all of its effects. But then, for men, they've got the stress. There is a hormonal response that happens to your body when your wife is pregnant. So even men have like some hormone changes when it's.
Oh yeah.
So what I did, because I just kind of like saw the writing on the wall again, I've seen lots of, tremendous examples from my clients, and, lots of successes and failures so I was very well prepared, probably better than anybody, that I've ever heard of, because I've seen so many parents, get fit before, during, and after kids and all that stuff. So I knew that, once we had the due date set, I was like, okay, I got, 9 months to get in the absolute best shape of my life, and to avoid, falling apart now. And that was a challenge for me. My wife and I just got married, a little over a year ago. So we wasted no time starting the family. We were like, it was like 2 months after being married, we were pregnant, but we just got after it. But
that's it, man. I went before. I just got married a month ago, and we have an 11-month-old.
Oh yeah,
we beat the clock.
Yeah, we were like neck and neck, man. So like, we were adjusting to living together for the first time, because we didn't live together until we were like engaged, and got married right after.
Yeah,
so,
right.
We were adjusting to that, and then I had to adjust to, I don't normally have willpower around sweets. I just kind of don't keep them around me. But then if your pregnant wife wants ice cream, go for it. I'm not stopping that. So like, I kind of had to adjust to like, oh wow, there's a lot of stuff in my house that I need to just like not eat now. So that was a new thing for me, and I focused on getting in absolutely the best shape of my life prior to my daughter's due date, which I feel like I was able to do. And then that was in end of May. And then that enabled me to sort of like have, paternity leave and initial recovery and like settling in time. So I could kind of like fall off of peak, but still be in a decent place. And probably like month ago, I think I kind of like got back on the horse a little bit with like,
okay, we're going to tighten up nutrition. Okay, we're going to like tighten up drinking. We're going to tighten up like all these things and tighten up actually doing my workouts and, you know, all that stuff, not skipping them. But I could at least start from, you know, a pretty decent place and then go from there. And now I'm like all re-energized to like, you know, get back after it for the rest of September and October. I'm doing like a dry 30-day thing with a bunch of the clients as well.
Okay, I love it.
That was kind of like, because I knew how easy it is, and I could feel that hormonal pull during the pregnancy. I was like, damn, this is like hard sometimes. Like I'm really sleepy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm working out so hard. I'm not seeing quite the response I normally would. So I could definitely feel it. It's real. It's not like an empty excuse. But I think that, you know, the biggest thing, if you're a guy out there listening and your wife's pregnant or you're planning on getting pregnant, like, they can eat things that you cannot eat, man. You know, and by the way, you can eat everything in moderation, but like you know, everything in moderation has turned into like a rallying cry of people that are not eating things in moderation. Like it's a phrase that I agree with at its surface, but so many people abuse it.
Yeah.
That I don't think it's quite the right phrase.
And I'm the same as you. Like I just can't have it in the house. If it's in the house, it's gonna go down. It's gonna get in my body.
Yeah.
You know, that's it. Simple as that.
Yeah. I mean, this is how we deal with nutrition with new clients, because like I include basic nutrition because I don't think it's just my job to give you a great workout. I think it's my job to help you move towards your goals and
help you be well.
Yeah, help you be well. And usually it involves a conversation like, hey, what's the top 3 things you're looking to work on? Invariably, the solution that will get you to, you know, those things that you're trying to work on will not only involve fitness. So I think it's a little bit my job to make sure that you feel like you have your marching orders outside of the gym, you know, even though most of our time together will be in the gym. So the way we do nutrition is like, hey, let's have a rule about alcohol. Let's have a rule about processed sugar, and let's have a rule about, you know, general processed food in general, like junk food, if you will. You know, and if you're trying to lose a bunch of weight really quickly, that rule for 30 days or more might need to be 0 of those things. If you're trying to lose weight, you know, at a still brisk pace, but you don't feel like being perfect, cool. You can have alcohol once per week. You can have dessert once per week. You know, you can have some other processed treat once per week. The rest of the time, focus on fruits, vegetables, and lean meats. And, you know, that's kind of how we skin the nutrition cat. And I for a lot of clients, I feel like it really simplifies the marching orders a little bit, but while still allowing a little bit of discretion, because I'm not like, I'm far from perfect in terms of like how I eat. And I also don't expect people to like never have some enjoyable things for the rest of their life. It's just, you know, very similar to the concept of like addiction and alcohol. It's like, is that thing making, you know, if you're drinking so much you lose your job because of it, that might be a problem. If you're drinking so much it takes 20 years off your life, that might be a problem. If you eat so many sweets that you're taking 20 years off your life, then that's not okay. If you're eating enough of them that periodically you enjoy them and you have no issues maintaining you're maintaining a healthy weight and your daily energy is awesome and you're feeling great and your blood work at your doctor's looks great, and like if all those things are good, then yeah, you can enjoy some sweets.
Yeah. I agree there with you 100%. And I think, like you said, if you're actually doing it in the true sense of the word of in moderation, and you're just being honest with yourself, like once you like really, you don't know, if you're not doing fitness, you don't know how you feel because you just feel like shit all the time. So like if you get into a fitness cycle though, and you know, after a couple months, 6 months, you know, you could actually really feel, like, at least for me, I can feel how food affects me, you know. Last night, you know, I had, you know, too many handfuls of Pirate's Booty popcorn, you know, and today I'm feeling that a little bit, you know. It's like, you know, and I'm always trying to re-regulate myself and say, okay, I didn't need that last night, you know, maybe let's stop, you know, we were getting a little, it's fall football, you know, why don't you get some Pirate's Booty and just have some little snack in the house, you know. And it's like, it's just not what I need. And so it doesn't make me feel good. And so I just need to make myself, okay, I had that. That's good. I don't need that for, you know, whenever until the next time that maybe I will entertain the idea that I need something like that. But I can't just keep buying it because I am going to eat it if it stays in my house. And so like just looking for that stuff like moderation and, you know, like alcohol for me, I don't drink alcohol. I figured out that I don't like, and I had addiction issues and I stopped drinking alcohol, but then I figured out that I could drink alcohol if I wanted to, but I found out that I really don't like it. I don't like the taste. I don't like the way it makes me feel in the morning. You know, I think for some people it's poisons. For some people it can be medicine. I think fewer people it's medicine, but it can be a cool social thing and to help people and explore creativity potentially. But I'm mostly not for it. You know, but what's your take on alcohol?
Yeah, I mean, my personal journey with alcohol has been, I didn't really drink at all in high school because I was too nerdy to get invited to parties, and then, did a little bit in college, but I was, again, like the physical rigors of what I was up to with my ROTC unit were such that it actually did, put a considerable limitation on, what you could get away with or whatever. Plus, you're on scholarship, and you wouldn't want to get busted and then lose your scholarship. So you had to drink an amount where you could maintain caution.
Yeah.
So really, it was like once I got in the Marine Corps, I started drinking more, and it's definitely like the Marine Corps is definitely a drinking culture. I think more broadly the military definitely is, and then the Marine Corps was actually literally founded in a bar, which is constant justification to
Have
yourself.
a beer.
Yeah. So you get into it, and then again, if you're in this culture where that's the way to respond to stress, then you start to kind of, reinforce that loop of like, oh, if I don't feel good, drink. If I don't feel good, drink. If I don't feel good, drink. And then I got out of the Marine Corps, married my first wife, started personal training, and then even started the gym, and just everything was not going well. I was in a horrible mood all the time. I was definitely, struggling a little bit with like undiagnosed PTSD, really not in a supportive or helpful or like healthy relationship with my ex-wife. And then, shocker, like, business struggling too, because, if all that's the case and you're not sleeping enough and you're drinking way too much, you're not very good at, getting new customers or having the kind of growth mindset that's necessary to be successful in business. So, everything kind of came falling apart like first year that I had the gym. I started to really like curtail, how much I was drinking. And like, I started to have certain rules. Like one was actually sort of super easy rule. If you want to start to actually enjoy alcohol instead of having it screw with your life, only drink when you're in a good mood. Don't drink alone, and only drink when you're in a good mood. You can still actually get away with drinking quite a lot. Following those two rules, I did, but like it does change the dynamic, and it changes the relationship with that thing, where now you're not using it to push this, every time I feel bad, I push this button, and then that button makes me feel worse. And then during the pandemic, I noticed that everybody was pushing that I feel bad button in a way that I was very familiar with. So I started sort of preaching. I didn't want to call anybody out like individually. So I was just like, hey guys, I'm not going to, the gym was shut down. I was like, guys, I'm not going to drink until the gym's open again, thinking it'd be like 2 weeks or whatever, but I was like, guys, I'm not going to drink until the gym's open. If you want to join me, I encourage you to, because people are sitting at home and drinking too much, and it's not good. And I was like, oh, by the way, there are some people that start to drink too much, and then when they try to quit, they literally can't. And it's people just like you. So be careful about that. Like, you're playing with fire a little bit when you're doing that. So I was just kind of cognizant that I didn't want anybody that I knew to get sucked down into that hole. And I was cognizant that I was lucky that, I have alcoholics in my family, so I'm like aware of it. But anytime I wanted to cut back with the booze, I recognized that I needed to, I was able to. But I also recognize like there are people that by the time they get there, they cannot stop. That's what it is, and it's a normal person because it's an addictive substance. It's not like a weird person over there that gets sucked into that. It's a normal person that just went too far, playing with fire, and then started a forest fire. So, anyways, I said, hey guys, let's not drink until the gym's open, and then that ended up being like 7 weeks. But what I've noticed ever since then, so now at least a couple times a year I do a dry month. And then normally when I'm not 100% dry, I just follow the, hey, only drink 1 day per week rule, and that if you do dry months periodically and you only drink 1 day per week, you actually can't maintain any kind of tolerance whatsoever. So I've become like a cheap date, even though like I was 6'2" and 215, but like one drink is literally enough to put me on my ass now. But what's funny is, so I've probably cut my drinking by like 95% from peaks.
Yeah.
And I would argue that I enjoy alcohol more now because I have more or less like no negative consequences to it, because I'm now consuming it so infrequently and in such small quantity that, when I do have that, 1 or 2 drinks per week, like kind of usually on a Saturday, it hits. It's really nice. It's like, it's nice, relax. Like, you feel relaxed. It's enjoyable. Can kind of put a cap to the week. And, if you're self-employed, it's hard to ever feel like you're done. So it does make you feel like you're done a little bit. So it's great. But like, I feel like it hits better now that I just sort of have that genie back in the bottles. That's been my, personal trajectory. And then for my clients, what I'm always encouraging them to do is like, just take a 30-day break once per year
and just get a little reset and see how things are. Because the other thing about alcohol, and I'm sure it's true of other substances too, is it sort of lies to you while you're consuming it. So you don't realize, like, you're convinced that things that a third person could obviously see are related. Like, oh my God, I can't sleep. I'm so stressed out. I'm this and that. And it's like, yeah, you're having a couple drinks every night. So you are chronically a little bit hungover and your attitude sucks. That's the thing I'm constantly trying to remind clients of, is like, look, it's not just like the headache. That's not the main, problem with the hangover. You take a little Advil, the headache's gone. But the real problem is if you spend 2 or 3 days having like a really shitty attitude, it's like almost a mini version of like an alcohol, like a capital A alcoholic's attitude. Because like capital A alcoholic, if you've ever known one or have been one, nothing's ever your fault. The world's against you. Everything's unfair. And what I've noticed is that that's not like a binary switch that just gets flipped on at some point in your consumptive journey. That happens a little bit, even when you're drinking what is commonly considered moderately. So that's why I like a reset. So that's kind of what we talk through. And it always has to be up to you. And when I'm working with clients, like, everybody's story is different. Everybody's needs are different. It's very unique. That's like the personal and personal training. So it's never like I make you do it.
Right.
But if I can convince you to do it.
Yeah, I think that you can't make anybody do anything.
No,
unless you're in the military and you have some type of, or some job where you're like, then you can sure make, but even then you're not really, the person has to want to do it.
Yeah, even then you kind of have to like actually lead, not just command. It's kind of funny, like even in that environment, and certainly in my environment where it's like, I don't do annual contracts. It's a month-to-month membership. If I'm an asshole to you, thinking that being an asshole to you will, like, I don't know, kick you in a gear and make me feel really tough or something. If I do that, like, I'm going to lose you as a client, and now who am I helping? Or if I force you into like white knuckling something that you're kind of, whatever, for whatever reason, not quite ready for, versus doing what you can do and focusing on what you can do and moving forward. If I force you into white knuckling, you're gonna fail, and then you're gonna think, oh, I suck, I have no discipline. And it's like, maybe, but maybe it was a bad plan. That's my other beef, I guess, with the broader fitness industry. That's a much longer conversation, I suppose. But like, there are so many like quick fix gimmicky things that then when that obviously is unsustainable, the person who tried it is at fault somehow, and it's like, I don't know that you're undisciplined if you tried to starve yourself for 3 weeks. And then at some point along the way, because you were starving yourself, you craved a bunch of food and then ate too much because nobody taught you how to eat any better. They just taught you to starve yourself. Like, I don't know that, like, that seems like more cause and effect than it does lack of discipline.
Yeah, I would agree with you, and I really want to. You said something that I just want the audience to hear again, and that's that it's in and of itself, alcohol is not bad. In and of itself, I've even said on the show that opiates aren't bad. I saw what they did for my mom in the last 4 days of her life when we got to create an environment where she was able to be. And not in pain, and got to leave this world in a great place, and we got to be there with her, and more people got to come see her because of that. So it's, there's all these drugs, that you can, substances that exist, and in and of themselves, they're not bad. It's the relationship. It is the relationship that you have with these substances and that what you have with yourself. And that's like with everything. And I think that it's really cool that you can be open and honest about it, that you used to have a bad relationship with alcohol to the point where you might even identify as a capital A alcoholic, and that you now say, no, because that actually is recovery. We had a gentleman on our show, Jake Nichols, and, he talks about this a lot. Like, recovery is being in control of that and knowing, like, not caring what everyone else thinks. Like, okay, yeah, sure, I used to drink a lot. Now I drink once a week, or, whenever I feel like I want to. And, when I have these rules for myself and I have this relationship with it. And somebody might think like, oh, why, that guy's an alcoholic, why is he drinking? It's like, no. That person is that, he's crushing his business. He's impacting the community. He has a family. He's doing everything right. And so that's really what, the show is about, and is about trying to get people to see this new way of, the abstinence only model, that it can help some people and it can be helpful. And if that's what you want to do, that's your path, giddy up, go down it and do it. But if you think that you, are able to, get right and to incorporate this, it can be a medicine, like you said, and it's a nice thing for you that you have a relationship with that's, and so I can't say it's a negative thing. And it's funny because you say it hits differently, right? Like, so I stopped drinking alcohol a while ago, and I also stopped drinking coffee a long time ago. And I just, because I felt like it was just creating anxiety for me. And like coffee was a little bit more challenging because I actually loved the taste of coffee. And I used to love what it actually did to me. You know, I used to love the little juice giddy up, you know. But I felt like it was just too much. Like I have this natural energy. I wake up with this energy. I don't actually need it. And to be controlled by something that I need every single day, like I was beyond that, you know, I was beyond that in my life. So I stopped drinking coffee, but now, you know, after 5 years of not drinking it, I'm finding that like sometimes if I want to do some writing or if I want to be super focused on something, I can use it as a tool and I can use it as this medicine to help me be engaged. Or if I'm really tired and I'm driving and I don't want to be unsafe because I have my son in the car, I can use it as a tool. And like that's maybe once a month, once every other month, if that. But it's cool that it's, you know, I thought that I was going to be done with coffee forever. And then my life kind of told me, no, Steve, you can have a relationship with this stuff. And that's what, you know, that's really how it goes.
Yeah. Asking for a friend, how'd you come back on coffee? Did you substitute it with anything or like, what'd you do?
I love it. So
not that I, you know, I'm hooked on coffee or anything.
I think it's like a serious one of the tiny little A's, you know, because it's not necessarily harmful. It just can be negative for your gut and for the anxiety. And to be honest, man, is what I did is like at first I was drinking like just, I was unconscious with it, you know, so I literally was drinking probably 70, 80 ounces of coffee a day, just like, yeah, just cause, you know, like I drank a 32-ounce coffee in the morning and then another one in the afternoon and then maybe a little giddy up after that, you know, like, so I was just, first I was like, whoa, we're drinking too much coffee. So at first I just started to cut it down and I just went to like one coffee a day, you know, probably like 24 ounces. And then I just started to, you know, go, okay, like this makes me feel good in the morning still in terms of like gives me that need. But like I started to actually kind of be a little bit different. But like I learned this, you know, this other technique through Kundalini yoga of like a way to brush my teeth and to, you know, to exhale everything. You know, this actually like every morning I gag myself. You know, I take my toothbrush and I brush my teeth, and then it's this Ayurvedic practice that you gag yourself before you eat or drink anything. I hack up this stuff and all this gross, you know, phlegm and whatever the toxins my body had collected overnight is now expelled from my body. I know it's swallowed into my stomach. So I started doing like some of these. I started neti potting. So I started doing these other things to like replace it as well. And like then I would go and like do a little workout. You know, I'd do like a 10-minute workout, and I would feel like that same little jazz of like, oh, I'm ready to go. I just did a couple of sun salutations and I feel like I'm ready to go from the day. But it took, the other thing too is I gave myself patience. I didn't get mad if I had a day like, oh, I need coffee today, I have a meeting, I need to just get on the phone call, I need to do this. I never like made myself feel bad about it. I think that was really, really big in it. I just kept empowering myself. Like, I think this is something that I want. So let's keep going towards it each day. And so like, you know, just kept cutting out the coffee. And then one day, you know, that last couple of the last 2 weeks of it where I was like, okay, I'm going to make the stand right now. And I've been doing this for 6 months, dilly-dallying, dicking around, you know, time to get down to business, and finally did. And I didn't look back.
Nice. Where I'm at with coffee is I won't drink like whatever 48 ounces of it. I'll just make 12 ounces of it as strong as 40. So I'm like, no, look, I'm only having one mug. I don't know why I can't stop sweating and I smell bad and I'm jittery. So like I'll play that game, but I just did a little like purge. Like I was just went on a business trip, and then after the business trip, I went to the Grand Canyon and hiked in the Grand Canyon for 4 days. So I just deliberately didn't bring coffee with me, you know, into there. And I was like, you know, who cares if I'm having like caffeine withdrawals? I'm like in the Grand Canyon. It's fine. It's awesome. So like I did that to like do a little reset, and you know, then I try to just trickle in, like pour a half a mug at a time, not a full mug at a time, because you'll drink both in the same amount of time probably. And you know, so I just try to cut back. But I haven't done a full blown, you know, other than like quick 4-day things, I haven't done like a full blown like a month without coffee or something like that. I probably should try it.
Yeah, I think it's
probably
coming.
The next thing. Yeah, probably the next thing.
Next thing, man, like constant personal growth. You know, I think that's what it is. Voracious self-improver is how I defined you in the beginning, and like that's what it's all about.
Thank you.
Dude, I'm cut of the same cloth, you know, and it's like, you know, and I see a guy like you, and I'm like, oh, you know, we talked about it a little bit, the strength training. You know, it's like you just told me, you know, you're 6'3", 6'2", 215 pounds, and I see your body, and I see the way that I look right now, and I was happy that I lost this weight and I got to be a thin person and you know, a thinner person, whatever, like wearing mediums for the first time in my life. Like that was weird. Yeah, right. Like wild, you know, like what the heck, you know? So, and that felt good. It felt, you know, not to wear the medium, but to wear clothes that looked good on me and to be able to feel good in my body while I was doing it. But I see a guy like you now, and I know because of the strength training I've been doing and how it's been, you know, I could maybe do like maybe 2 or 3 pull-ups, and I don't want to be that guy. I want to be the guy that looks like that could rip off 20 pull-ups right now, probably rip off 100 pull-ups, like I want to be that guy. And like
probably 20.
Probably okay. Well, he's a 3.5-month-year-old. But still, because I've watched, I've watched a lot of your Instagram stuff, so I see, back in his heyday, maybe 100. But so, I can't wait to take that next step for my self growth and getting more, more fit and some more strength and some more muscles on my body.
Yeah, it's funny you mention that because it brings my mind to the concept of like functional training, which has become a buzzword. And like, I bet if you asked 10 different personal trainers, they'd probably all say, oh, we do functional training. Like they would all say that. And then if you asked all 10, like, well, what does that mean? What does functional training mean? You would probably get 10 different definitions of what functional training is. Like for me, I think the definition of functional training is, does your time in the gym make stuff better and make you more able to do things outside of the gym? Does it actually translate to your life? So, if you have chronic back pain and then we work on core engagement and, moving functionally through movement patterns well, and then all of a sudden you don't have chronic back pain, not that I'm a physical therapist, like we always refer to PTs when we need to, but, if you go from being chronically achy to not chronically achy just through the magic of moving your body, that's functional. If you, or in my case, I love to hike, I love to backpack. So I don't do a lot of, what are known as bilateral lower body lifts. And what I mean by that is like a squat with both feet on the ground. So think of your traditional, barbell back squat that you might have done in your football days.
Yeah, right.
So that's bilateral. We do a lot of unilateral stuff, meaning like a single leg step up with a barbell on your back or, split squats and lunges and things like that. And the reason that I do that is because guess what backpacking is? It's a lot of unilateral movements with a load somewhere on your body that your trunk has to control and stabilize. And then you need to translate that power through your body and through your core in order to actually have power in your step. So to me, functional training is like, does it make me hike better? And does it help with, it's funny, like people treat strength and endurance like they're two completely different things. But what is so funny is like, if you work on strength, particularly again, functional strength, like strength that is specific to the stuff that's important to you, all of a sudden your endurance is way better. So, I mean, yeah, coming full circle back to, that's great. You've gotten to a healthy weight, but I definitely get the pull of like, now you want to be able, now what do we do with this body? Let's get a body, we got this thing ready for the racetrack. Let's add some horsepower to it, and rip some corners,
Yes, dude. Yes. That's exactly what it is. It's like, I want to be able to, when I'm in the water and I'm getting out of the pool, I want to be able to, I can do it with my right leg, but for some reason my left leg, because I have a little bit of, because of an injury, I believe, I have some compensation patterns that I'm working through. And so, I can't step up with my left leg, normally. And I'm nosing this stuff. And, I need to do some more of this unilateral because I had a coach tell me one time that, coach that I've been dealing with through yoga and all this, that and I think you actually posted something on your Instagram about this, like the thing that we do the most and the thing that we don't train and that we should be training more, paying more attention to and getting better at is walking. Like our walking and paying attention to our gaits and, doing unilateral, is that what's called unilateral?
Yeah, unilateral movement.
Unilateral movement.
Or single leg, single arm.
Yeah, so you doing unilateral movements like that I know are so incredibly helpful because we were doing them in yoga. And, making this and squeezing things between our legs and doing this and then pretending to move and actually moving. And it's, or I shouldn't say pretending to move, I should say, like initiating movements from the places where they're appropriate from moving, but you're not actually, moving forward in direction. So it's just like this, I like that you have that opinion of the functional, it's to get to a functional point. What do you like to do in your life and how do you want to get better at that? Yeah, I like to kayak. I like to be outside. I like to walk on the beach. I like to hike. I like to be active with my son. I like to, to play some pickup sports, so like getting better at that. And like also being at a point where like my bones are protected by my muscles and my ligaments are protected by my muscles and they're strong so that I'm not going to get injured and I'm going to be able to continuously do this stuff. Like I'm excited to we'll talk after the show. Maybe we got a new a young 33, so I might be a little bit younger than your normal clientele, but
yeah, you'll be all right.
Okay, yeah, fit right in.
Yeah, you'll be all right.
Oh man, I think it's great. So we touched on it a little bit, but I want to talk about food because you had kind of you were alluding, I think, to fasting and the way that people were going towards intermittent fasting and like starving themselves. And So I'm just curious, like, how you look at like dieting and, is that a necessary? Just what's your opinion on it? What dieting and
where I come at it is, I don't have a formal nutrition background. My head coach does, so he helps keep me honest and keep me from like saying anything too wild. But where I come at from nutrition is I've just seen, I've probably seen 1,000 or maybe thousands of successful and not successful attempts at body composition change. So I've just seen a lot of trend lines on a lot of what works and what doesn't work. And there's and there's lots of different ways to skin the nutrition cat. That's the other reason it's a little bit confusing, is because there are lots of, you need to find what works for you. And the 3 ways that I've found work the best will be what I say at the gym, which I'll enumerate last, intermittent fasting, and then some form of food logging or calorie counting, like the Noom app or something like that. So I've fallen out of love with food logs and calorie counting over the years, because I've found that unless you have the experience and knowledge or willingness to, weigh everything, like you really need a food scale to do it right. The logs are inherently so inaccurate that can be an issue. And the other problem I find with food logging is it's much easier to log packaged food because it has a little box that tells you exactly how much everything is, and it's much harder to log whole food. So it tends to push you into, into more processed food, and less whole food. And then they're just inherently inaccuracies, because like all those nice, precise looking food labels can be 20% off one way or the other. So I've fallen out of love with it for most clients, but I do have some clients that have done well using like the Noom app, for food logging and trying to, count the calories and hit their calories. But that's one way I've seen make work. I've seen intermittent fasting work well enough for those that it has worked well for, that it's like worth saying and mentioning. It's not for everybody. It's not for me. I've tried it, and I've found that, like I need to kind of carefully guard my mental health. And if I don't eat the whole first half of the day when I'm working and working out in the first half of the day, and usually I try to do my most important work in the first half of the day, and I try to do like more people oriented stuff in the afternoon, because that kind of like perks me up in the afternoon. So like I just found that was making me so anxious, and then I read that that's actually like a common thing. So intermittent fasting works for some, but not for everybody. It's also a struggle to get enough protein with intermittent fasting, because even if you have a fairly big fasting window, it's just hard to get enough protein in, and that's vitally important. So that brings me to the third thing I've seen work well for people. So, first was some sort of food logging thing. Second was like some sort of intermittent fasting type thing. Third thing I've seen work the best is essentially what I preach, which is I just redid the food pyramid. And the food pyramid that I made, I sought bribes from food manufacturers, and nobody wanted to bribe me. So I was like, darn, I guess I'll just like tell you what to eat that's good for you. So like what I did is I just kind of took the old school food pyramid that we all know and love and remember, but made it make a little more sense. Because if you look at that old school food pyramid, it is a great way to present the information and a great way to like understand, okay, cool, eat more of this stuff, eat less of this stuff, like, and proportionally up the pyramid. But the original food pyramid tells you to eat 11 servings of grain, which is the equivalent of like an entire loaf of bread in a day. And that doesn't make sense to me. So I redid the food pyramid so that the bottom is fruits and vegetables, because that's what you should have the most of. And then I moved grains, grains a little bit closer to the top. And then we did some other funky things, like it sounds counterintuitive, but we moved cheese out of dairy and moved cheese into like fats, and, put fats somewhere differently, because, the fat content of cheese makes it more like, other fats than it does, 2% milk or whatever. Yeah. So it just, we kind of have, it's almost like, less fatty dairy is one category, and then fats in which the fattier forms of dairy, reside is another category. So do that, and then, do a little bit of what I described earlier. Hey, let's make a rule about alcohol. Let's make a rule about refined sugar. I don't care about the sugar that's in an apple, but refined sugar specifically. And then let's make a rule about just processed food in general, because the food manufacturers design the food to be overconsumed and to be a little bit addictive, because that's just the game that they're in. Like, I get it. I mean, I don't even like necessarily vilify them for that. I think it's a little annoying when they get caught, as I recently saw in the news, they get caught paying dietitians to tell people to eat junk food, because then that feels like we're not playing fair. But like,
other than that, like I don't care that they're making food that's more addictive. Like they're competing with other people that are doing the same thing. So like that's fine. We just sort of need to recognize that as like intelligent consumers and people that we get to make our own decisions. So I think we need to have a rule for, you know, some guardrails for alcohol, for refined sugar, and then for processed food. And then other than that, I tell my clients, hey, eat, you know, mostly fruits, vegetables, and lean meats to satisfaction. I don't want you starving. I don't want you feeling hungry all the time. Because, you know, it ironically, it's funny. People eat too many calories and not enough actual food at the same time, which is sort of funny because it's the other reason you have sugar cravings all the time, besides the actual, like, you know, rise and fall of insulin that really responds to sugar. Besides that, it's literally you're eating things that are completely devoid of any nutrients that your body does actually need. You know, so shocker, it's going to crave more, just more food because you might be nutrient deficient at the same time that you're in excess calories. So anyways, I've found, Steve, that if we just make those rules about those big three things and then focus on fruits, vegetables, lean meats, eat those to satisfaction, do that on top of lifting 3 days a week and then walk the other days of the week for at least an hour. It's like magic, man. You know, when I have weight loss clients, that works great for weight loss clients. When I have just kind of general, like, I don't know what you would call lifestyle enhancement clients, like they just want to look good and feel good. They probably are already roughly a healthy weight, but they just want to like continue to look good and feel good and live a long time and be healthy. That general recommendation works great for them. And then where things get more personal is like, okay, how do we specifically have you execute this plan? You know, what are the specifics of what you'll focus on or whatever? That's when I sit down with people and we figure that stuff out.
Yeah, man, I love that because it's you. That's how I lost the weight. That's how I lost 100 pounds. You know, it was because I literally just started focusing on healthiness because I was never thinking about losing weight. I just wanted to feel better. So it's like, it wasn't, you know, it was just happening for me. And then like one year I went to go put on my jacket and I said, oh shit, you know, I know I was like, you know, lost some weight, but I didn't, my suits don't fit anymore. So then you step on the scale and you're like, whoa, I'm under 200 pounds, I'm 185 pounds. This is crazy. And then since then I've lost a little bit more weight, but like, I honestly don't want to be losing that weight. I'm going to try to go the other way now, you know, maybe put on a little bit more muscle. But like, I just went that way. I ate healthy. You know, my wife is a vegetarian, or pescatarian rather. So I started cooking for her more and started like just learning more. Like I always cooked and stuff. I always cook because I learned how to cook for my mom, and I was, you know, people would regard me as like a good cook. They enjoy eating my food. But I really learned how to like, you know, cook in a more healthy fashion and to, you know, to make sure that the nutrients are actually coming through the meal, that I wasn't killing them entirely. I was, you know, preparing the meals in the best possible way for myself. When you say lean meats, what do you mean?
So, you know, a lot of chicken, you can do leaner cuts of beef or leaner ground beef and things like that. You just want to watch, like, you don't want to go nuts with like nothing but like super fatty ribeyes and like, oh, bacon, you know, like that kind of thing. You want to, you know, bacon and sausage. And processed meats, you probably want to have more in the treat category, you know, at least certainly while you're trying to lose weight. And then, you know, because what you need to do to lose weight is different than what you need to do to keep weight off. You know, it's a different gear that you're in. But yeah, if you stick with chicken, you know, lean cuts of beef, lean ground beef, and lean cuts of pork and stuff like that, and fish, that'll help you. The fish, you can have fatty fish because that's the healthy source of fat.
Okay.
As long as you source the fish from like the right place, which is a constant like rabbit hole of like, how do we do that? So I take, and I tell most of my clients to just take a fish oil pill because it just helps you check that box without having to like find, you know, unobtainium, you know, uncorrupted salmon from wherever,
right?
Because that's a whole, you know, the heavy metal thing in the fatty fish is like a whole issue that I feel like it's changing so much I can't even keep up with it because whatever I thought was good the previous year isn't as good now or whatever. So
yeah, it's so hard to actually like know what's good. And like, you know, you think it's good because you're going to a local place over, you know, you saw them catch the fish, but just because the fish it's contaminated because of where it might be, and it's tough, you know.
Yeah, and usually what I try to help clients to do in terms of like their focus, once we've kind of laid that foundation, is like, if we're getting confused about the nuances of like salmon that's from the Atlantic versus from the Pacific or whatever, I can almost guarantee we're you know, stepping over dollars to pick up pennies, because there's probably you know, the amount of times I'll get clients that sometimes they even might want to debate me, you know, about like, no, Alec, I think this way of eating, that way of eating. It's like, but that doesn't matter if we don't address some behavioral stuff, like you are stress drinking and stress binging on snacks. So it doesn't matter if you're vegan or paleo or whatever like thing that you want to try, you know, which by the way, if my clients want to try something different, they can. I just, you know, tell them straight up like, hey, I haven't seen this work as well. So here's what it would take to make this work better. I haven't seen being full-blown vegan work as well because you just can't get enough protein. And you can certainly debate about what is and is not enough protein, but the other thing that I have in my gym is a $8,000 body composition analyzer that uses bioimpedance to measure not just your weight on the scale, but your skeletal muscle mass. So if we do training and we know what you're doing physically, and then you're telling me that, I'm vegan and I'm sure I'm getting enough protein, but you are losing lean muscle mass instead of fat, we know you're not getting enough protein. So it doesn't matter. We don't need to have a debate about, which study on PubMed I can cite that supports my opinion. And we don't need to try to win the semantics Olympics, about how much protein is enough. You as an individual are not getting enough protein because we're measuring the changes in your body composition. We can see
over time, you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Over time. I think it's funny because again, darn near anything is better than the standard American diet. So I think if you're stereotypical overweight man that eats way too much fatty meat and has way too much alcohol and is very overweight, and you got bad heart condition and your doctor's telling you your blood's high triglycerides and all that stuff, probably a good idea to try vegan or at least much more plant-based for a period of time. But at some point you need the protein, and what people miss on getting enough protein and on strength training when it comes to longevity is it helps right now because you're stronger right now and that makes your life better right now. But it's not aerobic fitness that keeps you physically strong enough to get on and off the toilet without help when you're old. It's strength, and so strength is when we lose strength, and once we're in our mid-30s, sarcopenia starts unless you fight it, and sarcopenia is just loss of muscle. It gets harder and harder to put on and easier to lose as we get older. What people miss with the protein is if we're talking about longevity and being well long term, being able to dance at your grandkids' weddings, or your great grandkids' weddings or whatever, being able to keep up with the grandkids, you need strength, and you can't have strength without maintaining lean muscle mass, and you can't do that without getting enough protein. So that's where I've seen vegan not quite work as well, but I'll still I won't kick somebody out of my gym if they want to try it or whatever. We do it, but ironically, sometimes I say it sounds like I'm making a joke or being a smart ass, but sometimes when people are like, what's the perfect way to eat? I'm like, vegan plus some fish and some eggs.
Right.
Honestly, if you take
some honey.
Yeah, and some honey. But if you take a unprocessed food-based vegan diet, not like vegan potato chips or whatever, an unprocessed food-based vegan diet. So you're eating lots of fresh fruits and vegetables, and then you just add
lentils.
Yeah, beans and lentils, all that, and then you add some animal protein sources.
That's my diet.
Yeah, then that's fabulous.
And I do cheese too. I do a little bit of cheese here and there, but very, very little amount of cheese. I'm not a cheese guy.
Yeah, and I get the moral argument for being vegan, so I'm not bashing.
Well, 100%. Yep.
Totally get that.
100%.
But just
I struggle with it.
Nutrition, the nutritive side of things, the nutrition side of things. I just once again, I have not seen it work well long term because in order to get into a calorie deficit, if you're trying to lose weight, you're just hard pressed to get enough protein, because even something like quinoa has, I think, 5 grams of carbs for every 1 or 2 grams of protein. So if you really want to get enough protein, you're going to have so many more carbohydrates that your overall calorie intake will be too high to lose weight.
Yeah. So what would you say is the sweet spot for protein?
So this is another number where there's lots of gnashing of teeth on Twitter and people.
Yeah, I know, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the other thing that's fun about the online arguments is it's mostly people that have never actually helped anybody do anything. So it's it's PubMed warriors, playing citation, citation jest or whatever. That's all that's going on, but they've never actually worked with anybody. They have no idea what behavior change looks like. They have no idea what it likes to fit the theoretical into somebody's actual day,
right,
which is where the rubber actually meets the road. The number that we use for protein, usually as a starting point, is 0.75 grams per pound of body weight.
0.75 grams.
Yeah. So for somebody my size, 160 grams of protein, which first blush, and it should be, I should specify, we are shooting for a goal weight. So if you are, overweight and you're looking to lose a bunch of weight, figure out what your goal weight is.
Yeah.
Shoot for that. Use that for the calculation for the protein. And that's just a starting point. Most people, first blush, when they look at that number, they're like, oh my God, that's crazy. How could I possibly hit that? Usually we are undercounting protein, kind of like going back to the food log thing. We usually undercount calories. We are also typically undercounting protein, so it's usually a lot more doable than you think. And the way we work through that with our clients is that is usually something that's errs on the side of technical enough that I'll have Ryan field these questions for me. But usually he just kind of talks you through, all right, what are you eating for breakfast? Okay, do this instead of that. What are you eating for lunch? Okay, do this instead of that. What are you eating for dinner? Do this instead of that. Okay, cool. You having a protein shake post-workout? Yeah, okay, cool. Look, 160 grams. And you're like, oh my God, So it's very attainable. It seems not attainable at first to get that amount of protein, but it's very doable. And so 0.75 per pound of body weight. Some people say more, some people say less. Consistently, the amount that the daily recommended, the RDA or whatever that's enough so that you don't like get sick from protein deficiency. That's not enough for like optimal protein intake.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying 100%. I was just asking what somebody who has all this experience working with a specific clientele of getting people to a point where they necessarily were just a regular person who might not be going to the gym to a person who feels like they are healthy. And I was just wondering, what that number looked like. Mostly just because selfishly, I'm trying to figure out how much protein I got to take the next couple of weeks.
And it's funny because we're always just kind of looking for better, but not perfect. So like if I can get you eating more protein than what you're eating right now, that might be good enough for the next 30 to 90 days, and then you can iterate. Because the other beauty of having some way to measure body composition changes is like, here's another great way to think about protein. This would be as an example of like a weight loss client, but maybe not like a major weight loss client. So like, let's say they have under 50 pounds to lose, something like that, 20 to 50 pounds to lose. If they are losing weight on the scale and they are maintaining or gaining skeletal muscle mass when we measure that, and they're getting stronger in the gym, and they are not starving all the time, they're definitely getting enough protein. So we don't even need to measure it or count it. Like we know they're getting enough, because protein's so important to staying full all day too. So if you're not starving all day at the same time that you're losing weight, you probably are getting a reasonable amount of protein, because it's hard to do both of those things at the same time. So if you're experiencing weight loss and not starving, and you're maintaining or even building muscle, you're probably getting enough protein.
Yeah.
That's like the dirty math way to do it without having to like, okay, how many grams per pound or whatever, and then let me pop this, chicken breast on a scale and figure out how many grams are in that.
Right. Now, just, my last question, so to get 160 grams for you, what does that typically look like in a day?
So I usually start the day with some kind of, like very light breakfast, because then I'll usually go into the gym, do a couple hours of work, and then work out. And everyone's a little different in this regard, but like I find that a medium to light stomach is better going into my workout than like a really, heavy stomach. So I'll usually have like 2 pieces of imported prosciutto with like some apple slices and just a little bit of olive oil as my light breakfast. And then I'll make a protein shake that's usually a double serving. So let's see, that first thing that I just said is probably like 12 grams of protein. And then I will make a protein shake that's usually like a double serving. So I forget how many, and I have it kind of throughout the morning, like not all at once.
Okay.
So I'll usually throw 2 scoops of protein in there, plus there's like 12 ounces of milk. And I throw a bunch of fruit and other stuff. So fruit and cinnamon and, blueberries, and blend all that into a giant thing. I think last time I added up how many grams of protein was in that alone, it's like 60 grams.
Okay.
Which again, I don't have that all at once, because I think that it would, if I were to do that, I think it would actually just kind of sit in my stomach for a while. So I'd still absorb it slowly, but like it would just kind of sit in my stomach. And like I know it literally feels like a quart glass that I use. So it would like not even feel good to have all of it. So usually I have that first little mini breakfast, then make that protein shake, go into the gym, do my lift, and then have about half of that protein shake. And then, have half of it later for a snack. Lunch is sometimes, if I can get back home, because I live like 3 minutes away from the gym, if I can get back home, then lunch looks like a bigger breakfast, because I kind of like breakfast foods. So lunch usually looks like 4 eggs and then a bunch of fruit, and just eat that, like eat the fruit until I'm full. Eat the eggs first and then eat the fruit until I feel, comfortably full, let's say. And then dinner usually looks like, some kind of, common one Abby and I have been cooking up a lot has been just, we slow cook a bunch of chicken breasts and do pulled chicken, and then you can put whatever kind of like sauces you want to put on it. Check the food label for the sugar, but put whatever kind of, sauces you want on it. And so, probably a cup or 2, let's say, of shredded chicken, probably the equivalent of a chicken breast of shredded chicken, with a salad, maybe some roasted potatoes, and again, some more fruit.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like when I'm really being a good little boy. That's what it looks like. And last time I added all that up to see like, hey, where am I at? It was pretty easy to hit.
Yeah. So that sounds like a great day. I definitely need to be getting a little bit more protein into my day. I have a question about the protein shakes though. Now, what type of protein are you using, and how does that matter?
Yeah, so it's funny. The supplement industry I've had a very odd relationship with, because when I first opened the gym, when I was a first personal trainer, I refused to recommend any brand because virtually every brand, even if they start good, they tend to be taken over by people, and then they reconfigure their formula, which is always proprietary, and then they put in a bunch of fillers and a bunch of junk and a bunch of contaminants, and then before you know it, you're like the most egregious example of this that I'm aware of is Muscle Milk had some product that was advertised as 50 grams of protein. This broke my heart too, because Muscle Milk's delicious, but there's a reason it's delicious. It was advertised as 50 grams of protein. The way they get to that number is they sort of manipulate the lab test by doing something called nitrogen splitting, which I only barely understand, but basically it artificially makes the protein count look higher. And then when they got third-party tested, where someone wasn't playing their funny little games, 2 grams of protein per serving. Yeah.
Bad.
So bad, right? And they're not the only ones, and I'm not, here to bash Muscle Milk, I guess, even though I just did. But so the supplement industry is so frustrating to me because so many companies, even good companies, then they get third-party tested after they made some changes just to protect their bottom line, or, to eke out a little bit more ill-deserved profit. And then they get third-party tested, and all of a sudden, boom, there's a problem. So for years, I just we didn't sell any supplements in the gym, and I kind of didn't recommend any specifically. And then I noticed that my clients were going to, any of the major national supplement retailers, and they were getting pitched whatever the person that makes $10 an hour plus commission makes the most commission on. And they were getting sold a bunch of junk, and I was like, darn, I'm like, okay, I'm being so pure over here that I'm letting my clients get kind of chewed up and spit out by people that might not necessarily have their best long-term interests at heart. So what we did a year or two ago is I found a company that I really liked that is also owned by somebody that owns a gym and has clients just like mine somewhere in New York, that, where we could, this was important to me, we could sort of white label it, so it's on target protein or whatever. And we did a bunch of research into how do they source this? How do they test it? So the two most important things for me were they are third-party tested for purity and efficacy, so we can make sure that there aren't contaminants in the manufacturing process, and make sure that it's whatever it's supposed to be and contains what it's advertised to contain. And then for all the powders, they're cold press filtered, which for the protein is helpful because whey protein is best in show. I always like to say it depends, because it does depend on the individual, but whey protein is best absorbed and highest quality unless you happen to have an issue with dairy. But what's fun about if you cold filter the whey protein, all of the lactose is removed. And I have yet to find somebody that has an issue with dairy, myself included, that has an issue with the protein that we use.
Really cool.
Yeah, so that's what we use. And I think the biggest takeaway for folks from, is in terms of my little supplement rant, is make sure the stuff is third-party tested. Anything you want to try, Google the brand space lawsuit, and you will see what's going on behind the curtain potentially. But make sure it's third-party tested. And then I don't think anything that comes from a multi-level marketing type delivery business model works very well for supplements. There are other things that I think that model could be fine for, but when they're paying commissions 20 layers deep, they have to have so much margin on that product that the price of that thing cannot possibly contain what it claims to contain. So another thing to think about is Google the thing, see if they're third party tested, see if they're getting sued. And then probably the second thing is if it's cheap, there's a reason. Sometimes if you go to Walmart, you will see 2-pound jugs of protein for sale for less than what the source material costs to actually make 2 pounds of that protein, meaning whatever's in there is not what they're saying. So yeah, that's kind of my supplement rant. So I think supplements have a place, but it's got to be food first, supplements second. And supplements can't fix a crummy diet. And then in our case, the supplements we sell, we basically make, it's essentially at cost. It's just my way
like I make my money by, if you make healthier and healthier choices, you'll stay and pay and be a member for longer, and that's how I'll make my money. I'm not going to make the money on the friggin' protein or the multivitamin or whatever.
Right. I hear that now. So if people wanted to find that protein, do they have to be a member at your place? Or can they order it online?
They don't. We do have a way to order it online if they're interested. So let me get the website right, because I'm not used to even talking about it. It's funny. I'm like a workout guy.
Yeah, we'll get ready for it. So we're gonna be asking you all those questions right now, right?
OnTargetSups.com, I believe, is the supplement website. I mean, you can get to it directly from the gym's website, which is OnTargetFit.com. I think it's OnTargetSups with 2 P's.
And we'll post this all for the listeners, so it'll be in the show notes.
Awesome.
So
I'll double check that link and make sure.
Okay, yeah, no.
The right one.
Where for the people who listen to this that are local, how can they find you? How can they get in touch with you? How can they become a member at your gym?
Yeah, so here's the process. Another thing that I think is a little bit wrong with the fitness industry is it's excessively salesy, because most places don't keep their clients for very long. So then they need to constantly bring in more and more clients to backfill the clients that are going out the back door. My model is high retention. So the average length of stay in a large group setting, outside of yoga is a little bit different, because that can be delivered more effectively in a large group way. Well, inside baseball, but average length of stay at your average like class-based place, 3 months. Average length of stay at my gym is 3 years. So we're approaching capacity, which is awesome, and I'm very grateful and fortunate to be in that position. So part of my process, especially at this point, is like, hey, let's make sure we're a really good fit. So if you go to the website, you can just like see a little bit and, read blog articles and decide if I'm like a prick or if you like me or not. And like, so you can just see stuff on the website, and then, there's buttons everywhere on the website, like find out more. What that'll do is that'll bring you to a calendar that's my personal calendar. You can find some time that works for you and book a time to sit down with me. I'll show you around the gym, and we'll see if we're a good fit. And then from there, if we are, I'll make recommendations, like, after kind of hearing your story and what you need, what you're looking to work on, and what stuff you've tried and what stuff, has worked well and what stuff hasn't worked well in the past. Like I like to get the full picture. And then from there, I can recommend that, hey, this is what I think you do. This is, I think, the best personal training option for you. And then if you agree, then, we high five and you're now a member of the gym, and we get you onboarded and get you going. And if you disagree, like, no worries, we still get to be friends. Like, Portsmouth is a small town. I don't need to get mad because somebody didn't want to join my gym. I don't have the time or energy for it. And it's a small town, so like we're still neighbors,
Yeah, no, exactly, man. So that's great. And if feel free to say no, but if you want people to be able to see your journey personally, do you have a social media that you share?
Yeah. So the gym's Instagram is just, I think, at OnTargetFit. And then my personal Instagram is at the Houseboat Trainer, because I lived on a houseboat for 4 years. So
yeah, we have to get into that story next time, Danny. Tell the houseboat training story.
Yeah, to be continued, the houseboat saga. Yeah,
hell yeah. Too, and we'll have to talk about it more in the next show as well. But what do you do honey?
So a little bit. I'm excited to check this stuff out, because I have found that CBD. One of the best things, I get periodic migraines, pretty rare at this point, but like they do happen, and CBD just like stops it in its tracks. And then, so correct me if I'm wrong, when Michael was first telling me about this product, I was like, man, that's so smart. Is it correct that by ingesting the CBD with something that is sugary, that helps for tissue, it helps deliver the CBD into like the muscle tissue because of the insulin response to the sugar? Is that?
Yeah, it's not, we're not positive it's necessarily because of the insulin response because of the sugar, but it's because it's sugar is the thing that's processed the quickest.
Yeah.
As out of anything, carbohydrates take a little bit longer, protein takes a little bit longer, but sugar, especially sugar that we've been processing, we've been taking for millennia since we've existed. The first treat we ever found was honey as human beings. It's not white processed sugar, but even that too is processed the quicker and it's in the body. But by creating that vehicle, it 100%, we need to study this because they haven't allowed us to study it, but we 100%, all the science leads us to believe that is wise because the sugar is making it as a quicker absorption.
That's so cool. I thought about it because, what they say with post-workout nutrition is that if you take your post-workout protein in a liquid form that includes some carbohydrates, that's why I blend up fruit with my protein shake, it helps with the protein absorption. So I was like, oh, that's such a cool idea. So no, I don't I'm not a honey aficionado yet, but I know I'm about to be.
Yes, sir. You are definitely about to be. Now too, we do a CBD honey, but we also do a THC honey. My journey was started in non-infused honey, and that's what I'm really about, is about providing people this unbelievable substance that should be a part of everybody's diet, even type 2 diabetics, because it's a natural sugar that we have been processing for a long time. It's a great thing if people are putting any white sugar in there. It's a great way to make those small steps to start cutting it out. And there's been tons of research going into it lately that the honey is actually creating this enzymatic reaction in your stomach, where it's creating the microbiome is creating a better environment for a lot of this bacteria to exist.
Awesome.
So the honey is just great. We're definitely gonna get you some. But about the THC, do you take part in that?
Periodically, it's funny. I don't react as well to the THC. Probably just because I never really got into it until like somewhat recently. What I've found is it relaxes me it's almost like alcohol, where it like relaxes me temporarily, but then whatever amount of relaxation I feel, when I'm taking it, I lose the next day. So it's sort of like I'm borrowing happiness from the next day, but it's like, it's not actually a value add. So I've found a lot more benefit from CBD. This is another conversation for another day, but like I'm one of those guys that was around like burn pits and stuff, and that causes gut dysbiosis. And leaky gut or intestinal permeability,
100%.
semantics, Olympics. But I've had a whole journey of figuring out like microbiome, gut health, all of that stuff. So I found that because of all that, I think I just have some chronic inflammation, and I seem to be prone to inflammation. I also have some family history of that. So the anti-inflammatory properties of CBD, I seem to respond really well to that for, again, essentially take it instead of like Advil.
Yeah, bro.
Anytime you would take it for Advil, that's what I've found with CBD. So THC, played with it a little bit. It doesn't quite do as much for me, but CBD has been like really helpful for a variety of things.
Yeah, I love to hear that, because most people say the other thing because they like to get high and they like the psychoactive effect. But I'm a huge CBD guy, and I think that CBD is great. And they are two different. We're not trying to sell a silver bullet here. We're not. We have all the different types of honey. We have, CBD. We have THC. We have regular non-infused honey, which I'm going to get you a ton of, because I put this in my shake every day, and I feel like you're a guy who's willing to do some tests, and some experiments on yourself. So I bet if you did this for a 2-month period, it's about how long it takes. If you did this every day for 2 months, you put about a tablespoon of honey in your shake every day, you're going to start seeing benefits with your gut health.
At the very least, I'm going to thoroughly enjoy the taste of it. So I'm down to try.
Hell yeah, babe. Your shake's going to be even tastier than it is.
Yeah.
But no, man, definitely if you guys want to thank Alex so much for coming on the show today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was great.
Yeah, bro, it was awesome. Just like I said, having an authentic, conversation where we're learning about helping people be well, and you're doing it in the community. I'm trying my best over here. So we're, so grateful to have you on today. If you guys want to get in touch with Alec, it's, ontargetfit.com. OnTargetFit is the Instagram. OnTargetSups is the supplements to get the supplements or the protein. My man is the at the houseboat trainer. If you guys want to check him out there. Anybody needs any? You got something?
No.
Okay, giddy up, baby, giddy up. No, so hey, if anybody needs any help, you want to get a little bit more fit, see if you're fit over at his gym, or just have any questions in general, you know where to find us, and we will see you next week. Giddy up.